Shannon Newton is the president of the Arkansas Trucking Association. She was in Memphis this week to talk about solutions to the closure of the I-40 bridge between Memphis and West Memphis. She and I caught up for a conversation. First of all, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. Tell me a little bit about how important this road is, particularly this stretch of I-40 between Memphis and West Memphis. How important is it to the nation's consumer good industry?
Well, thanks for having me, Roby. Interstate 40 is a major east-west corridor, not only for Arkansas, but it spans all the way from Southern California into the Carolinas. And so you think about all of the regions of the country that connects and how reliant we are, on receiving goods and shipping our goods out to other parts of the country. The traffic that goes through the I-40, I-55 interchange is substantial, not only to the regional economy, but to the national economy.
You have indicated this is costing the trucking industry a lot of extra revenue per day. Tell me a little bit about what that estimate is and explain to viewers and listeners why it is costing more. What causes it to cost more?
I think the most simple explanation is time. In any business, time is money. Whether you're talking about idle equipment, burning fuel, or an idle driver, all of those things cost the industry money, and there are opportunity costs that are associated with that. But just the hard cost of sitting idle in traffic. We were able to use some ATRI data. The American Transportation Research Institute has a contract with Federal Highways, and they have GPS systems and trucks throughout the country. And so using that data, we're able to determine that the route that previously took about 8 minutes, which was from the I-40, I-55 interchange west of West Memphis through to Interstate 240 on the Memphis side. So that normally took 8 minutes. In the days immediately following the bridge closure, that was taking 84 minutes. So if you look at just over, 71 minutes, a little bit over an hour taken out of that, the drivers, allowable hours from service, again, the equipment and the fuel. So that the time of sitting idle 71 minutes that was unanticipated is a hard cost. And if you choose to, maybe you don't want to sit in traffic for an hour, and so you choose a different route and you go north through I-555 or south on I-49, then you're looking at 60 to 100 miles out of route to avoid sitting in that congestion. So whether the costs are congestion or whether they're out of route miles, either way, it's costing the industry at least $2.4 million a day as long as that bridge is closed.
And that will likely get passed on to consumers in the prices that they pay. You met with the feds on Thursday, I believe, in Memphis. What did they say to you? What did you say to them?
Yes, the acting administrator for Federal Highways was in Memphis on Thursday. And I think, the purpose of her trip was to come down and understand better from state, local officials on the ground, kind of the impact of the bridge to the region. There were also some business leaders that were invited to participate in the meeting. I think it was really to wrap our arms around both some short-term and long-term solutions. It's obvious if I actually went over to Memphis and made the trip. And so it's obvious being there, the impact that it's having on that local community. And that's maybe something I think that has gotten lost. The town of West Memphis is currently gridlocked with traffic using its city streets to try to get across the river. And so what can be done to alleviate the congestion and the immobility of the area right now? Are there things that Federal Highways can either send extra money and or make some allowances or exceptions to create? Can we drive on the shoulder, or do we need to go from 2 lanes to 1 lane in this particular situation? Is there anything that we can do to increase capacity as vehicles are trying to use that I-55 bridge? So that was some short-term things that we talked about. How can we get workers who work on one side of the river but reside on the other side of the river? That's obviously another impact there on the ground. So the purpose of the meeting was to talk about those short-term pains, and if there was anything from the federal perspective, whether it be money or exceptions to existing rules and regulations that would allow any sort of relief to the area. And then on a long-term perspective, I think it was to assure the communities and the people of commerce who were there in the meeting that the federal government is committed to fixing the bridge and reopening it as quickly and as safely as possible.
Any time frame in your estimation as to what we might be looking at? I know that's a hard question to ask. I'm not asking you to look into a crystal ball, but I mean, was it discussed?
Yeah, I feel confident in the answer of months.
Okay.
I think that's based on the conversations that I've been privy to, and things that they've said publicly. I believe that there is still some ambiguity in what the actual execution of the solution will be, and so I truly believe at this point that is still an unknown to some degree.
So I guess last question for you. The trucking industry, at least from my perspective and from my conversations with you over the years, has always been supportive of infrastructure investment. We are having yet again another national debate on infrastructure in Congress. Do you think that this bridge closing down and the way it's impacting the economy, do you think that is going to help, hurt, contribute in some way to this infrastructure conversation?
I do think that it elevates the awareness of the issue, and I think that's an important thing. I think the infrastructure network, the supply chain is something that people often take for granted and, until there's an incident like this, which reminds us that we're all dependent upon it in order to get the things that we want when we want to get them. And so I'm hopeful that this infrastructure debate will be advanced by highlighting what infrastructure really is. You and I, when we say infrastructure, we think about roads, bridges, broadband. I mean, I hope that this will allow the conversation to advance in a way that allows for some serious conversations and attention to investment from the federal level on things that we traditionally refer to as infrastructure, like the I-40 bridge.
Shannon Newton, president of the Arkansas Trucking Association, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.